government put in loyalists to Trump only, and rip down any department that is considered woke, like the education, etc., etc. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, but we
is it
as
treasonous, or I don't know. I mean,
yeah, well, no, I mean, look, it is a crazy ass plan to
yeah,
yes, but advocating for removal of a government agency or service, nothing is inherently, wrong about that necessarily. People have, opposed the Department of Education from day one. And but it still continues to exist. But it's an existence of legislation and executive action. Legislation can change that. You can't universally just get rid of it because it's authorized by Congress. You would have to take over Congress. It'd have to be an act of Congress to eliminate whatever ones. Now, certain departments are in the U.S. Constitution. You can't get rid of the State Department. You can't get rid of the Justice Department. You can't get rid of the Treasury. Those are all constitutional departments
you have the
within.
three branches of government separate for the powers to be, but so Project 2025 is not attacking those three powers, because that's also what
no, it is an attempt to secure most of the power in the executive branch by getting rid of certain departments and then making them operate under the authority of the executive office of the president. So it is transferring it from which is a combination legislative and executive function, because legislature creates it. The executives are the ones who get to appoint the appointees in it. But most of them are all civil service anyway. You don't have a loyalty to a president or a party when you get your job. You get it because you're a citizen and you get to keep it. It doesn't get changed out with the change of every administration. Could you imagine the government trying to operate where every single time there's a change of administration, everyone is fired and new people have to get hired? How would you have continuity of government or programs? It just doesn't exist. So yeah, what they're advocating for is basically the total destruction of the government of the United States and placing it all in the hands of the executive, which is, a horrible, horrible thing to do. There are aspects of Project 2025 which I think you could consider to be conspiracy to violate individual civil rights. I personally think that a lot of these anti-trans bills that are being put together, advocated for by these national organizations and hate groups, and being funneled to state legislators to bring this up and pass it, that is the actual conspiracy to violate the civil rights of individuals, because they're seeking to use the power of government to take away our ability to exist as humans. And that to me is a violation of our civil rights, and them engaging in that conspiracy. Now, whether I'm going to get anybody who wants to jump on the board and take on the legislature of Georgia for their actions and taking away the access to health care, that's going to end up being a civil case. But if we do get a finding by the Supreme Court that we do have these fundamental civil rights, then they're attempting to take them away through these laws is nothing more than the same thing that they did to African Americans in trying to take away their voting rights and prohibit them from being able to vote, taking away their schools. Those organizing to take those things away from people is wrong and illegal. And I think it's the same when they do it to go after the LGBTQ plus community.
Yeah. I mean, I heard, I think this morning, that there is, I forget who it was, someone's advocating basically some old law basically in Constitution that because Kamala Harris is Black, that she's technically not even allowed to be voted for as well, because she's technically not a person. I mean, the level that they're already going to, and we're only in a month and a half since the announcement.
Well, if you go to the original Constitution, and Blacks were considered 3/4, I believe, of a vote, or 4/5. They were not given a full personhood for purposes of census and things like that. But that's just absolute bullcrap, because we've amended the Constitution since then. Yeah, but it's horrible that they're thinking it. Yeah.
Yeah, because here's the thing, like I'm conflicted about Kamala sometimes with some of it because of the whole it's not that she was a cop, but she was a cop to a degree, and there's a lot of things that were problematic with what, affected a lot of community members, and looking at it in the way that she is just being hammered. It's when you see her in the tan suit in the same way that Obama wore the tan suit, like I'm conflicted. Like I'm excited to vote for her, but I'm also like still scared at the same time because of there's the whole Cop City things that are popping up. There's a lot of
Yeah.
different things that really directly affect trans people. Like they really do. Trans folks, unfortunately, are in the system at a higher rate than most communities. And it's really unfortunate that there's that history for her because at the same time, I'm also like looking at it and going, oh my God, like I feel like Disney magic, like hope in my heart, like seeing the DNC and seeing, there was even like Mayor John Erickson there was from West Hollywood. I saw him posting and he was like right there. I think he even got an interview with I forget what major network, but there was a lot of beautiful moments that happened in that. But at the same time, there was like a really great streamer. Well, I wouldn't say great. Sometimes he's a little problematic, but he had I think like 90,000 folks on his stream, and because he was talking about Palestine, they like pulled him out of the building. So there's like a lot of different things that are happening simultaneously, and I know she can't fix it all at once, and I know that we as community members also want to put our hope in, but I still fear because there wasn't even a drop of trans representation, at least in her party, that we're almost like, well, we got the trans vote because they know that if they vote for Trump, it's, well, everything's gone. And that's how I feel because Kamala still has my vote, but I just wish that my vote was more considered in a way that we're looking at the multiple genocides that are happening throughout the world and even
Yeah, it's
people directly in this country legislatively. I mean, as a trans person, I've got abortion rights that I'm fighting for and also trans stuff. So as a trans guy, I feel like I'm getting hit in both angles and nobody's even really platforming trans men at all or having those conversations. That's also why I wore a pussy boy, because I just wanted to make sure that that was known that I'm a trans guy if anybody's watching this and has forgotten. But it's so many nuances that are happening at once, and I'm still so hopeful, but it's like this, like, I don't know. You know what I mean?
well, to me, the way I look at it is there is no other choice.
Yeah.
Do I know what she's going to do? I have a
No.
very good idea of what she's going to do in relationship
Yeah.
to trans rights. You've got to remember Governor Walz sponsored and supported and signed into law this sanctuary provisions in Minnesota law to protect trans people who would come to Minnesota from another state that was seeking to persecute them. So, and he has a very, very good understanding of trans issues, from what I understand.
Yeah.
And so he is going to be an advocate for us. And I know that President Harris has been at times an advocate for the trans community, and at times as Attorney General, she acted against us, in
Yeah.
seeking to prohibit medical care for trans
Yeah.
prisoners.
Yeah.
But
I'm
again,
glad you said that.
that was a lengthy period of time ago, and that was the standard prevailing idea under the law in a lot of circumstances for that. And we did hire her to enforce the law in the state of California. But she also acknowledges that that was a mistake and that she would not go that route again. I mean, so she has learned as she's gone along, which is something you can't say about Trump. He's still doubling
No,
down
that's
on the
something you
same
always
damn ass
know in a
shit.
politician at the end of the day. I mean, it's just in the back of my mind, she has my vote. I mean, I even made merch for her as well in support for her because as a trans person, I, there's so much going on legislatively, but it's also, I mean, it's under their administration. I also realize she doesn't have the same amount of power because she's VP, and there's a lot of technicalities there, but there's just a lot of, I think, challenges that the Harris campaign is going to have to face when it comes to day one in office, which I think we're all going to push over the line and get her there. I think that is going to happen. I'm manifesting. I'm hoping. I'm praying for it, honestly, because
Yeah.
I'm really worried about the other outcome, because the other outcome feels like death to me. Like, I don't know if you've seen the movie V for Vendetta, but I was just like, oh my God, okay, well, we're going to put roses in the windowsill. It's over. It's done. Like, they're just going to come knocking on our doors. And when Harris was announced, I got to tell you that was lifted off my shoulders as a trans person, with as problematic as she has been in certain areas, because she also has been, as a woman, been pushed, and even as a Black woman, has been pushed in ways to excel, like you said, far beyond most people that have ever applied to do the job as president, which is always that whole glass ceiling. Well, it could even be a glass cliff right now, because it got a lot going on economically as a country. But it's that whole thick glass that she has broken through. I do acknowledge that work that she's put in, and it is amazing to see a woman of her stature push through what she has and become president, because that's something that, again, trans guy, born with a vagina. I like to say that sometimes in the episodes. It's kind of cool to see that there's going to be a vagina in the office, and I don't care if that's weird to say. I'm excited for that. And I know that there's a lot of ideology, politics, where people are saying, well, you can't pick her because she's a woman. You can't do this because she's that. I would pick her because she's a woman, because women are asked to do twice, if not three times as much, to get qualified for jobs. And I'm sure
they have to do it twice as well.
Experience misogyny in a different way now, because you're like, oh shit, this sucks. And she survived that in the same way that Hillary Clinton is super problematic in more ways even, but you can still kind of respect like her business swag, like her game, that she, as a woman, made it through really toxic stuff politically. And I don't know, I'm really excited for Harris, because those kind of V for Vendetta dreams have kind of lifted a little bit. I don't feel like we're going to get like knocked on the door and like ripped out of the room. But I just hope to see more like visibility for us in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, and I think a lot of what the convention was for was not to reassure the base, because I think the base is fairly reassured. The purpose of, and what the focus of a lot of the convention was to independents and Republicans who are tired of the MAGA movement, and Republicans who are maybe vocally pro-life, but in reality are pro-choice. And I know there are a number of them out there. I think a lot of Republicans, they would be vocal, pro-life, knowing that there was the backdrop of Roe to protect them, so they could have that opinion and be part of the group. But I think, as we've seen with the elections in Kansas, with the election in Ohio, when you put abortion access on the ballot, it wins. And that is going to bring over some additional voters. And we have, I believe, somewhere around 14, 15 states that have constitutional amendments to protect abortion access on their ballots this fall. That is going to be a big motivating factor in getting turnout out. The pro abortion, I don't want to say pro-abortion, but the people who respect bodily autonomy and the right to reproductive freedom are going to be coming out in force, because this is a big issue. Nobody wants to see a 12-year-old girl be forced to carry her bastard son brother. It just is.
Or a trans guy as well,
or a trans man.
Because I don't know if you've seen some of the other episodes, but I have experienced assault. I was drugged in a bar, and I needed that medication in order to
protect yourself from
protect myself, because I was not gonna, do that to myself, especially as a trans man. And that's what has really caused me to even become much more politically active, is because this combination of abortion rights and trans rights. As a trans man, I'm like, oh my God, it's coming at me at both sides, and I don't have anybody really representing or talking about it in a way that is getting on CNN and having these conversations on how it's affecting folks. Even so much of how we're talking about the Amani Khalif situation and the boxing situation. There's so much conversation to be had about what's going on with misogyny within so many different layers in mainstream community.
Yeah, there's so many ways that we could paths that we could go down and talking about how this is such a problem. But it's I think that the focus now of the Harris campaign is to give reassurance that we are
They
going
got to
to
get better
have
on
normal.
Palestine, though. I will tell you that they got to get better on that communication. I mean, I know she said ceasefire, but she's
It's
got to
like,
pick a lane and really, you know what I mean? Because I understand. I don't really understand, to be honest. I still learning a lot about Palestine and Gaza, because I have focused a lot on trans rights and Los Angeles, and that's pretty much where I focus my activism. So I haven't commented too much on it, but the way that I think there was like a delegate there that was a Palestinian Democrat, like lifelong Democrat, that they didn't have them speak, but they had Republicans who were like super problematic and have said some horrible stuff. I think there needs to be a better balance there going
and
for their campaign, navigate that better, because from what I'm seeing on TikTok, and I'm just speaking from what I'm seeing because I can see it and say it, it's not looking good in a lot of ways. Even though we're gonna get over that vote, maybe, I don't know. I just got so much trauma with 2016 that I would really hope that the Harris campaign finds not just using the Brat Summer stuff, which is really cute and it's funny. Yeah, some of the stuff that I cannot believe is posting from an official account is so genius. Whoever is doing that, I end up watching it on TikTok like 4 or 5 times, just going like, I can't believe this is the Kamala Harris HQ like campaign, like promoting this TikTok sound, and it is freaking hilarious. Like when I saw like very demure, very mindful, I was like, oh my God, it's genius. But I just hope there's more substance behind it, because
yeah, well, what I would like to see
know
is Biden negotiate some type of agreement between these folks, and in this if we can. But that's such an extremely difficult thing to do,
I
because
know it's a lot to
you
ask
have two sides that
in
are not willing
4 months or whatever. I
yeah,
know
and it's like, so what side do you jump in? How do you jump in? Not
it's
jump
just
in?
hard because I've seen some of the videos
it
on TikTok of what is going on, and like kids being decapitated and stuff, and it's like I'm not the only one seeing that. A lot of America.
No, and it's not a good thing, and hopefully, something will break that deadlock where they're not able to talk to each other and at least come to some a reasonable solution, so they stop shooting each other for at least for a little bit, and give them time to talk. But that's a tough thing to do, and it's a tough thing to say, that it's the responsibility of the
And I
president
know
of the
we're not
United
going to figure it out
States.
on the show right now, like
Yeah.
you know what I mean. And I don't expect that, but it's just that's
But
from
it
what
is
I
it's
surveyed
an
on
issue that's
a
out
lot.
there. But again, what I was saying is what they're trying to focus on is that middle America. They're trying to get
And I hear
those Republicans that to be comfortable with either not voting, or maybe actually voting for a Democrat for the first time,
yeah.
because it's because Kamala is not somebody who is particularly scary. She's got the background, and it's just so funny, seeing the fact that, yes, we had presidents that came on, and we had Bill Clinton. He has a background of having issues. We had, but at least we had them show up. I mean, nobody at the Bush wasn't at the Republican convention.
Listen, I'm just saying what I'm seeing on TikTok
Yep.
from the younger generation, and what they're seeing and saying, and they make
That's because
really
that's
good points, like
that's the issue that they're seeing, and
yeah.
And do they somehow think that Trump's going to be the one to do that, because he's going to go in and just
No, I
okay
don't
the
think it
obliteration
does. I
of
think it's
Gaza?
just everybody's just like, what the hell is this? And we've lost hope. And that's kind of like what it really looks like. There's so many things simultaneously going on right now, like just historic events. Even in weather, there's tornadoes and things popping up, and billionaires, every year getting sacrificed to another boat thing. It's like there's so much going on in the world, and I think it's also probably social media. We're constantly streaming, we're much more aware of it. There's so much more factors to it, because as a millennial, I remember
And
it's
we're
less
we're
stressful.
we're more
Yeah,
easily
but
manipulated because we get repetitive things, and
yeah,
so we start seeing that, and that's what becomes the reality. And God, I don't want to live in the world of idiocracy.